The chill of the evening air was a mere whisper against the cold that had settled in my bones. A cold born not of weather, but of duty. My steps echoed on the cobblestone streets of a city that felt both familiar and alien. A maze that led me to the souls I was bound to collect. Asmodeus, a name that now pulsed in my mind with every heartbeat, had given me my next assignment. The weight of the ancient tome in my bag was a constant reminder of the pact I had sealed, a pact that bound me to this cursed profession. I found myself outside a dilapidated apartment building, its walls weary with the passage of time. The name I sought was etched in my mind, Marianne Webb, a soul whose debt had come due. As I climbed the rickety stairs, the creaking of the old wood underfoot seemed to groan in protest, or perhaps in warning. The door to her apartment was ajar, the flicker of candlelight spilling into the hallway. I pushed it open, my heart a drumbeat of apprehension in the silent room. The scene before me was a tableau of despair. Marianne sat at a table, her face a ghostly pallor in the candle's glow. Her eyes, when they met mine, held the weight of 1,000 sorrows. "I know why you're here," she whispered, her voice a fragile thing. "I've been expecting you." The room felt thick with the residue of her life's choices, each one a thread in the tapestry of her soul's debt. Pictures of a smiling family, long gone, adorned the walls, ghosts of a happier time. Marianne spoke of deals made in desperation, of a life that spiraled into darkness, each word a confession of her inescapable fate. I listened, a silent arbiter, as her tale unfolded. A story of love lost, of addiction, of a pact made with Asmodeus in a moment of utter hopelessness. The contract, I knew, was irrevocable. The terms were clear. Her soul was no longer hers to keep. When her story waned, the silence that followed was suffocating. I could feel the presence of Asmodeus in the room, a shadow looming over us, eager for what was his. With a heavy heart, I reached into my bag, my fingers brushing against the cold leather of the tome. The book opened to her page, the script glowing faintly as if anticipating the completion of the transaction. Marianne's eyes never left mine as I began to recite the words that would sever her from this mortal coil. The air grew dense, a miasma of ethereal energy swirling around us. She did not scream, did not plead. Instead, a tear traced a solitary path down her cheek, a silent testament to her resignation. The room trembled as the last word left my lips, the candle snuffing out, leaving us in darkness. When my eyes adjusted, Marianne was gone, her soul collected, the debt paid. All that remained was an eerie stillness, a void where once a life, however troubled, had existed. I left the apartment, the weight of Marianne's soul heavy in my conscience. The city seemed to watch me, its streets a maze of judgment. With each soul I collected, a piece of my own humanity seemed to erode, carried away on the whispers of the damned. As I walked, the words of Asmodeus echoed in my mind, a mantra for the damned. "You are the collector, Eli, the arbiter of debts unpaid. This is your purpose now." The night grew deeper, the shadows longer, as I made my way to the next name on the list. Fear, I realized, was a luxury I could no longer afford. I was a servant of the abyss, a debt collector for a demon, and this was only the beginning of my cursed journey. The relentless march of time had no dominion in the realm of my newfound existence. Night bled into day, and day into night, with the passage marked only by the souls I collected. My next assignment led me to a part of the city where the bright lights and laughter seemed a stark mockery of the darkness that clung to my being. This time, the name that whispered in my mind was Thomas Hargrave. A soul entangled in a web of lies and deceit so complex it was as if the very fabric of his life was woven from them. His abode was superior to Marianne's, a luxurious penthouse overlooking the city. The corridors of the opulent penthouse echoed with my solitary footsteps, a reminder of the solitude that cloaked my existence. Thomas Hargrave's lair was a shrine to his earthly achievements, each artifact a testament to his cunning and ruthlessness. Yet, amidst this grandeur, I sensed the undercurrents of something darker, more sinister. Hargrave awaited me in his study, a room drenched in the trappings of wealth. The walls were lined with bookshelves, their contents ranging from ancient tomes to modern bestsellers, all meticulously arranged. The air was heavy, laden with the scent of leather and aged paper, intermingling with the faint aroma of tobacco. He sat behind a grand desk, his back to the panoramic view of the city's skyline. The lights below seemed to bow to his grandeur, a homage to the man who had climbed to the very pinnacle of power. Yet, his eyes, cold and calculating, betrayed the cost of such ascendance. "You're the collector, then?" Hargrave's voice was smooth, a well-rehearsed melody of confidence and control. I must say I expected something more otherworldly. His demeanor was calm, almost amused, as if my presence was a minor diversion in his game of power. I felt Asmodeus's energy surge within me, a silent command to proceed with the task at hand. "Thomas Hargrave," I began, my voice unwavering despite the unease that gnawed at me. "Your debt to the abyss has reached its end. It is time." He leaned back, appraising me with a predator's gaze. "Do you even know who I am? What I've done?" He unfolded his story with the arrogance of one who believed himself beyond judgment. As he spoke, a portrait of manipulation and ambition was painted, each word a stroke of dark intent. He spoke of his rise to power, of the rivals he crushed and the alliances he betrayed. He detailed his dealings with Asmodeus, each pact more depraved than the last, all in the name of power and immortality. As his tale unwound, a nagging sense of incongruity tugged at my mind. There was a thread out of place in this tapestry of deceit, a sense that Hargrave was not the master of his fate he claimed to be. I began the incantation, the words now familiar, yet laden with a gravity that seemed to warp the very air around us. The room trembled, the luxurious trappings vibrating with an unseen force. Hargrave's laughter, once confident, now held a tinge of hysteria. In the midst of the ritual, the air twisted and churned, coalescing into a vortex of shadow and light that enveloped Hargrave. His form distorted, becoming less human and more a manifestation of his corrupted soul. Then, in a moment of chilling clarity, the truth revealed itself to me. Hargrave, for all his power, was but a pawn, a soul ensnared in a game far grander and more malevolent than his own machinations. He was a decoy, a distraction from the true nature of the debts I was collecting. The revelation hit me like a physical blow, sending me staggering back. The room spun, and Hargrave's figure twisted into a vortex of shadow and light. I heard Asmodeus's voice, a thunderous roar in my head. "Finish it, Eli!" I held fast to the incantation, my voice a beacon in the maelstrom. With a final, defiant scream, Hargrave was consumed, the vortex imploding into silence, leaving nothing but a void where he once stood. I stood there, alone in the aftermath, the echoes of Hargrave's final moments reverberating in the opulent chamber. A chill ran down my spine as I contemplated the depth of the game I was a part of. As I left the penthouse, the city sprawled below me, indifferent and unseeing. The names on my list whispered in the back of my mind, each a call I was bound to answer. The night awaited, and with it, the unraveling of more souls indebted to the abyss. In this tapestry of deceit, I was a reluctant weaver, my every step a thread in a design I had yet to understand. The inexorable march of time in my new existence blurred the days into a continuous stream of twilight and shadow. My role as the demon's debt collector had insidiously woven itself into the very fabric of my being, transforming me in ways both seen and unseen. The physical transformation I was undergoing became more evident with each passing night as I walked the streets of the city I used to know. My reflection in the shop windows revealed a man marked by his unearthly occupation. My eyes, once a vibrant hue, now held a depth that was unsettling, as if they had glimpsed secrets no mortal was meant to know. My skin, pallid and cold to the touch, bore the signature of the otherworldly realm I now served. The isolation was not just physical, but also a profound disconnect from the human experience. Laughter, joy, sorrow, and love. These were emotions that seemed to belong to another, someone I used to be. Now, they were like distant melodies, heard but not felt. The city, once a vibrant tapestry of life and color, now appeared to me as a somber landscape, painted in hues of despair and solitude. On one such evening, I found myself outside a familiar cafe, a haunt from my previous life where laughter and camaraderie had once been my companions. The warm glow from within seemed alien, a contrast to the coldness that had taken root in my soul. Pushing the door open, I stepped into a world I once belonged to. The reaction was immediate. The conversations dwindled into silence as every eye turned towards me. Their gazes bore a mixture of curiosity and unease, a recognition of the shell of the man I once was. I spotted a few familiar faces, friends with whom I had shared countless evenings, their expressions now a tapestry of confusion and concern. Eli. The voice belonged to Sarah, a close friend whose smile had always been a beacon in darker times. Now, her smile faltered, her eyes searching mine for a hint of the person she once knew. The encounter was a dance of awkwardness and strained conversation. Words fell between us like leaves from a dying tree, brittle and lifeless. They inquired about my well-being, their words laced with a thinly veiled concern that spoke volumes of the change they observed in me. My responses were evasive, the truth a chasm too deep and dark to reveal. As I sat there, a specter among the living, the physical toll of my role became apparent. My hands trembled slightly, a subtle betrayal of the turmoil within. A sense of disconnection enveloped me, a realization that the world I once knew was slipping away, piece by piece. The laughter and warmth around me felt like echoes from a distant shore, a reminder of what I had sacrificed in my pact with Asmodeus. Leaving the cafe, I felt their eyes on me, heavy with unasked questions and unspoken fears. The night air embraced me, a familiar comfort in the growing alienation I felt. The streets of the city, once familiar, now felt like they were designed to both confine and mislead me. Buildings loomed over me, their windows like watchful eyes, and every shadow seemed to whisper of my new, grim reality. The city's heartbeat, once a comforting rhythm, now seemed desynchronized from my own. As I walked, the subtle presence I had noticed earlier grew more pronounced, a shadow that flickered at the edge of my vision, elusive yet persistent. This watcher, a silent observer of my nocturnal pilgrimage, added a new layer of mystery to my existence. Was it a guardian sent by Asmodeus, a spy, or something else entirely? As I turned a corner, the shadow that had been tailing me seemed to vanish into the night, leaving me with more questions than answers. The mysterious observer was a riddle wrapped in an enigma, a piece of a puzzle that was my new existence. As I continued to trace the shadowed streets of the city, my path took me to the fringes of the old quarter, where ancient buildings whispered secrets of the past. It was here, in the narrow, cobbled alleys, that I stumbled upon a clandestine gathering. Hidden in the shadows, I overheard hushed conversations that sent a shiver down my spine. They spoke of the debts, not merely as transactions of souls, but as cogs in a vast, infernal machinery that spanned beyond human comprehension. Hints of other entities like Asmodeus, each a master in this dark symphony of soul collection, were woven into their words. My role, it seemed, was but a fragment of a larger, more intricate tapestry. A spark of curiosity, mingled with a growing suspicion, ignited within me. The origins of my pact, the true intentions behind it, These were enigmas, wrapped in the shadows that had become my refuge. The more I listened, the more I realized how little I knew of the world I had been thrust into. The gathering dispersed as silently as they had convened, leaving me alone with a torrent of thoughts. The rumors I had heard were pieces of the puzzle, each hinting at a truth that lay just beyond my grasp. The existence of other collectors, other entities like Asmodeus, the nature of the debts. All these pointed to a reality far more complex and daunting than I had ever imagined. As I walked back through the empty streets, the weight of my newfound knowledge bore heavily upon me. The isolation that had become my constant companion now took on a new edge, one tinged with a sense of foreboding. The mysterious shadow that had been observing me now felt like a sentinel, a guardian of the truths I was beginning to uncover. Its elusive presence was a reminder that there were forces at play, watching, waiting, their motives as hidden as the shadows they inhabited. As dawn approached, painting the sky with the first light of morning, I stood at the crossroads of the old quarter, a solitary figure caught between worlds. The whispers in the shadows had opened a door to a realm of deeper mysteries, setting the stage for revelations that would challenge the very foundation of my existence.